Ma'am, stop! 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 She's under arrest! Arrest her right now!
Large-scale immigration enforcement actions have surged in recent weeks, with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement mobilizing officers in coordinated operations nationwide, according to a Department of Homeland Security press release on April 10, 2025. These efforts target non-citizens who have received final removal orders and are deemed threats to public safety or national security. Though ICE has not issued an official headcount, anonymous officials informed Reuters on April 12 that several thousand individuals could be detained across multiple states over the coming weeks. Major urban centers, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, and Miami, have reported particularly intensified ICE activity since early April. News outlets describe these actions as deportation raids, but DHS emphasizes that they represent routine enforcement of existing court orders rather than sweeping roundups. Community advocates warn that the operations may ensnare long-term residents with no criminal history, calling for greater transparency on detention criteria. Some local authorities in sanctuary jurisdictions have formally declined to cooperate, while others have assisted ICE under federal mandates. As the operations unfold, immigrant rights groups report heightened fear among families and surges in legal aid requests. Observers urge the public to rely on verified data from government and reputable news organizations to avoid misinformation about the scale or nature of these enforcement actions. The debate over immigration enforcement in the United States has long ebbed and flowed with shifting political priorities. The latest wave of operations arrives amid renewed calls for tougher border controls and comprehensive reform. In January 2025, the Biden administration unveiled measures intended to expedite removal proceedings for non-citizens convicted of crimes or carrying final deportation orders, pointing to an overcrowded court system as justification. Critics contend that recent actions stretch beyond this high-priority framework, sweeping in individuals without criminal records or significant public safety concerns. Curious about what's unfolding in immigration? Subscribe for clear, concise updates. Civil rights organizations have been particularly vocal. In an April 11th statement, the American Civil Liberties Union warned that some targets appear to include long-standing residents who pose no documented threat and urged ICE to guarantee full due process protections for everyone detained. Conversely, backers of the enforcement push, including a coalition of Republican lawmakers, insist that upholding court-mandated removals is vital to the rule of law. On April 13th, Senator John Doe declared on X that ICE is doing its job to protect our communities and uphold our laws. This is long overdue, framing the operations as overdue but necessary. As the controversy deepens, policymakers and advocacy groups alike are watching closely to see whether the balance struck between efficiency and fairness will withstand legal and public scrutiny in the weeks ahead. Coordinated ICE operations have been reported in several states, targeting major cities with large immigrant communities. According to NBC News, Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, and Miami have experienced heightened federal enforcement activity since April 10, 2025. In some jurisdictions, local police have assisted ICE agents. In others, particularly sanctuary cities, authorities have publicly refused collaboration. For instance, on April 12th, Chicago Mayor Jane Smith reiterated her administration's dedication to safeguarding immigrant residents and limiting cooperation with federal immigration enforcement. ICE's most recent annual report shows roughly 250,000 detentions and 190,000 deportations during fiscal 2024, offering a benchmark for scale. However, ICE has yet to publish real-time data for 2025, and observers caution that it may be several weeks before updated figures clarify how current operations compare to past enforcement levels. Community responses have been sharply divided. Immigrant rights organizations, report growing anxiety, with some households restricting outings and even keeping children home from school. The National Immigration Law Center's hotline logged more than 1,000 calls for legal counsel within 48 hours of April 13th, underscoring widespread concern. Yet not everyone opposes the crackdown. In a CNN interview broadcast on April 12th, a Houston resident praised the actions as long overdue enforcement of immigration laws, while local business owners voiced worries about potential labor shortages and economic fallout. Legally, ICE's authority to detain and remove non-citizens stems from the Immigration and Nationality Act, which grants the agency broad powers once a final removal order is issued. Still, questions about procedural fairness have surfaced. Civil liberties groups point to reports of individuals held without immediate access to attorneys, even as ICE maintains that every detainee is informed of their rights. The tension between expeditious enforcement and ensuring due process remains a central flashpoint as these operations proceed. Supporters say these targeted actions help stop illegal border crossings and keep communities safe. Critics worry that removing large numbers of people tears families apart and upends lives, sometimes of people who've lived here for years. A 2023 Pew survey found that about 2 out of 3 Americans favor giving undocumented immigrants a path to citizenship, while roughly 1 in 3 want tougher deportations. The Department of Homeland Security stresses that these are not random sweeps, but focused on people with final removal orders. In a press briefing on April 11, 2025, a DHS spokesperson said, "These are targeted enforcement actions based on judicial rulings." They also noted that everyone detained is told their rights and given access to legal help. Yet because ICE hasn't shared details, like who's being removed or why, many questions and rumors keep circulating, including false claims that tens of thousands are being sent out of the country. It remains too early to gauge the full reach and impact of these enforcement operations, but officials expect greater clarity in the coming weeks. Legal experts warn that the raids could prompt court challenges if due process concerns materialize. Some advocacy groups are already preparing lawsuits, citing possible violations of constitutional rights. Meanwhile, legislators introduced the American Families United Act on March 26, 2025, a bipartisan proposal to create new legal pathways for certain undocumented immigrants. That bill faces an uncertain future amid deep partisan divides. Across the country, community organizations are scrambling to provide legal aid to impacted families. Local governments must balance federal cooperation with preserving community trust. Observers emphasize relying on verified data and official statements as rumors spread online. These actions underscore enduring tensions in U.S. immigration policy. While thousands may be affected, the precise numbers and outcomes remain to be determined. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.